What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Barbershop. Today, I'm going to be reviewing the TV show The Office. Now, I am going to be reviewing the American version of The Office, not The Office UK. And I have a couple of things I've discovered online from mamamia.com. Don't ask, that's just where Google sent me for websites with information that is more than likely not known about The Office. In true Office fashion, I have gone out and I have picked up enough of the ingredients, well, specifically all the ingredients, in order to make Michael Scott's One of Everything. I hope you can hear the disdain in my voice, as I'm not necessarily excited about this shot because it sounds disgusting. So what I'm going to be using is Scotch, Johnny Walker Black, absinthe, which I can only find a Pernod, I think is how it's pronounced. A white rum, I just grabbed a Captain Morgan White. I found a Beef Eater Gin, a Boulevardier's Sweet Vermouth, there we go, a Triple Sec, and I don't have packets of Splenda, I just bought a small thing of Splenda. And I'm not looking forward to it, because I'm not Meredith. I do not have a raging alcoholic sense of excitement for this at all. But yeah, let's find out what it's like. It's fucking horrible. Don't do it. Definitely don't do it to measurement. Because that's not a shot. That's a drink. Don't do it. But moving on with the episode. One of the first things I want to talk to you all about, while we kick off with talking about Steve Carell, who played Michael Scott, he was always that lonely man who just was desiring nothing but attention and affection from a perfect significant other. However, Michael Scott himself was tediously perusing the sea of singles in the show. Steve Carell was, a married man. And he was actually lucky enough to be able to have his wife, Nancy Carell, guest star on the show in the episode The Diwali Christmas as Michael's girlfriend, Carol. So that was actually kind of a sweet thing to learn, to know that Steve Carell, portraying such a love-hungry and affection-starved Michael Scott, was in fact able to enjoy a true bit of love on the show. Steve Carell was not the only individual who on the show was able to use their significant other in a scene. Jenna Fisher, who played Pam Beasley, when Pam had become pregnant and was going to go into delivery, all at the delivery room, there was a scene where a male nurse comes in to assist Pam with their daughter latching. And it turns out that the male maternity nurse was actually Jenna Fisher's real husband. So that probably felt a whole lot less awkward, but maybe just about as awkward to know that you have John Krasinski in the room whilst doing a recording of this level of an intimate scene with your wife. Staying on, talking about John Krasinski as Jim Halpert, there was a scene where Michael Scott hit Meredith in the parking lot with the company car. In an attempt to rule it as double jeopardy, Michael is sadly mistaken in understanding what that actually meant. Meredith ended up in a pelvis cast, and while she was returning, walking around the office, she was having everybody sign her cast. And when she came up to Jim Halpert, played by John Krasinski, John signed his actual name instead of signing Jim Halpert. And it is actually visible and semi-legible, as legible as most autographs can be, on the pelvis cast itself. So there's another good little fun one. Brian Baumgartner, who plays Kevin in his infamous Chili, actually runs his own official The Office podcast. That show can be found on any podcasting app, I believe, under the title Off the Beat with Brian Baumgartner. He has done interviews with Rainn Wilson, with John Krasinski, Jenna Fisher, with Angela Kinsey, and a bigger majority of the Office cast and crew. He even got a couple of the executive producers and writers on the show, his podcast, in order to continue to get more information and a little bit of an extreme behind the scenes several years later, obviously, as The Office is no longer airing. A little bit more on Brian Baumgartner's podcast is there was an episode that I remember listening to where essentially it was brought to everyone's attention that throughout the entirety of the cast during season 1, they were really sure that that was all they were going to be able to accomplish with season 1. Even John Krasinski, during his audition for Jim Halpert, had almost botched his own opportunity and chances of being on the show as he was speaking to the executive producer at the time. When he was sitting in the waiting room for the casting calls, he struck up a conversation with a gentleman talking about how much John Krasinski really loved The Office UK and was terrified that a English/American remake of the show would have just kind of tanked and then potentially risked ruining The Office UK for John Krasinski himself. And he had no idea that he was talking to one of the executive producers, risking his possible chances of being on the show. Sticking with John, during season 3 of The Office, John Krasinski ended up also being cast in a part of the film Leatherheads, in which, for the film, he had shaved all of his hair. So if you pay close enough attention in season 3, you could acknowledge and realize that John Krasinski is wearing a Jim Halpert wig. It's pretty successfully done, somewhat difficult to really gauge or tell that it's a wig. If you look for it hard enough, you may be lucky enough to find out and see any of those inklings to prove to you that he's in fact only wearing a wig. Talking about actress Angela Kinsley. She is actually one of the best friends with Jenna Fischer. So no matter how evil or hate-filled those of you who have seen the show may have felt toward that crazy, obnoxious cat lady, Angela, she is quite well loved, especially off camera. By one of the people she was kind of one of the most mean to during the show, as far as Angela and Pam having it out with one another from time to time. Going back to Jim and Pam, whenever it finally came time for Jim to get down on a knee and propose to Pam in the craziest, most goofy, botched way, and yet absolute love-filled, proving that love has no stipulations. Spoiler alert for any of those who have not seen The Office, but Jim ends up proposing to Pam in the rain at a gas station between New York and Pennsylvania. And the ring that is used between Jim and Pam whenever he is proposing was actually kept by Jenna Fischer. She herself actually decided to keep the ring just out of a keepsake, a memento of her time on the show, and out of the bond that she ended up making with John Krasinski, as they just played a very strong love interest and couple on the show. I believe that during the interview on Brian Baumgartner's show with Jenna Fischer, it's confirmed that nothing ever happened between Jenna and John. They were just very good friends and able to successfully portray a happy, love-filled couple on the show very successfully. During the end of Steve Carell's time on The Office as Michael Scott, there is a farewell and final episode involving him where the entire cast of The Office sings a farewell rendition of Seasons of Love to Michael. And throughout that song, not only is it an emotional scene to watch that makes a lot of people well up and feel a lot of love come out of the actors, actresses, it was actually all real. All of the emotion that is portrayed in that scene from all of the actors, actresses, all of the cast involved, including Steve Carell himself, were all real. Every reaction, every tear, every smile was not just part of acting. All of the cast, crew, everybody felt those actual emotions during that scene being recorded. For those of you who have seen it and may know, and for those of you who may not know, it would be Goodbye Michael. It's a part 1, part 2. In particular, part 2 is where you can catch that scene in season 7, episode 22, if you have any interest in trying to catch a hold of that, just to get that scene. Of course, you can always YouTube it in order to take part and get an opportunity to have those feels rush through you. Last bit of the facts that you may not know about The Office that I want to leave you with tonight on the show are a couple of the guest stars that, by all means, if you've watched this show, you're probably fairly well aware of catching some of these people. Of course, there's always the credits at the end of the episodes. But, any of you that are tuning in that are new to information about The Office, the 4 guest stars that I want to talk about, starting off in Season 7, after Steve Carell leaves as Michael Scott, Will Ferrell comes in and takes over for 4 episodes in order to attempt to become the new regional manager of Dunder Mifflin Scranton. It's a fun little story arc. It's a great laugh, and Will Ferrell surprisingly plays a much more sarcastic, sassy, almost downright mean person than most of his other comedies. But we all love Will Ferrell regardless. Another guest star that came in during season 7 as an interviewee for the regional manager was Jim Carrey. He was there for a whopping 2 minutes during one of the cold opens in order to, have a great laugh. He did not do anything further in the show, but I myself would have absolutely adored to catch a couple of episodes where Jim Carrey would have been the regional manager. I think that would have been pretty great. Jumping ship a little bit on shows. If anyone here listening is also a fan of the American Horror Story series, you will know the names Evan Peters and Kathy Bates. Kathy Bates eventually came on the show in the later seasons as a assistant manager whenever Dunder Mifflin was taken over by Sabre, and they began to sell not only Dunder Mifflin paper, but Sabre printers. And Evan Peters did a brief guest star on an episode entitled Nepotism, and he played the role of Michael Scott's half-nephew, who was sassy, obnoxious, and just downright pretentious, and yet really added some good goofs and pranks and quirks to that episode. If you guys have enjoyed listening to the episode today, please not only follow me, but send me DMs or comments through any of my socials, such as Instagram, my TikTok, my Spotify, my YouTube, or my Snapchat. Let me know what other kind of content you guys are enjoying. I hope that you enjoyed getting to learn all of these new little things about The Office that you may not have known before. If you did know them, then hey, awesome. You know what? We were roughly in the same boat. And if this has encouraged you in any way, if you have not watched The Office since its original TV airing and debuting before streaming was a thing, you can find it on Peacock for sure. And you can always try to find best ofs on YouTube. And, of course, you can always look for box sets, DVDs, if you still believe that those are a thing. Yes, they are. Target may not sell them anymore. But there is always Amazon. And I'm sure you can also find them on Amazon Video. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm Jeremy. And as long as the lights are on and there's beer in the fridge, you will have a barbershop.